My Lords, I was president of the CBI when the Ukraine war started and Russia illegally invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022. And on the Monday after the war started, I went to see the Ambassador Vadim Pristaiko at the Ukrainian embassy to offer the help of British industry. And it is then that I learned from the horse's mouth that Ukraine were going to fight. Putin thought the way in which the Taliban walked into Afghanistan after our withdrawal and the Afghan army capitulated, he would be able to walk in to Kyiv and take over the whole of Ukraine. And as the noble Lord Speller said in his excellent maiden speech, this war actually started a decade ago when Russia took over Crimea in 2014. Blunder number 2 by Putin. The week after the invasion, I was scheduled to address the EU ambassadors at their regular meetings at the EU embassy across the road in Smith Square. And in my speech to the EU ambassadors, I looked at the Finland ambassador and I looked at the Sweden ambassador and I said to them, "Are you now ready to join NATO?" And they said within 5 minutes. And sure enough, Finland and Sweden have now joined NATO, two formidable defense powers. Finland able to muster hundreds of thousands of trained troops within weeks. And they have a far longer border with Russia than Ukraine does, 1,400 kilometers. Both countries are formidable defense manufacturing powers, what Lord Speller spoke about, whether it comes to rifles, whether it comes to artillery, whether it comes to aircraft. And here we are now, almost 3 years into a war of attrition, with Putin not giving up. And the noble Lord Coker, in his excellent opening speech, spoke of the 675,000 Russian casualties. They've lost 3,400 tanks, 8,500 armored vehicles, 26 vessels in the Black Sea have either been destroyed or damaged. Ukraine, civilians and troops, tragically, thousands and thousands of lives lost. And I don't know if noble lords are aware, there are 80,000 amputees in Ukraine as a result of this awful war. Young lives, whole families ruined. And then Putin is making another blunder. He's worried about Ukraine joining NATO. Well, in the 2024 Washington summit, allies have stated they will continue to support Ukraine in its irreversible path to NATO membership. And look at Australia. Australia, thousands of miles away, has pledged to supply 49 surplus M1A1 Abrams tanks to the Ukrainian war effort. And it couldn't have come at a better time because the 47th Mechanized Brigade, the Ukrainian Army's sole user of American-made M1s, is running out of tanks. And the noble Lord Rosebaugh was absolutely right. We cannot go about supporting Ukraine in a half-hearted way. We're all united. Every single party in this House or independent peer, we all are united in defending Ukraine and supporting Ukraine. But I fear, my lords, we're doing it half-heartedly. We should be going all out. What about the planes? Could I ask the noble lady, the minister? No one has mentioned the planes. When President Zelensky came here, he said, "Give me wings." And we've given those wings. When are they going to be used? Are we going to be able to use weaponry within Russian territory? And the great news, as noble Lord Coker mentioned in his opening speech, the UK has approved $2.26 billion military loan for Ukraine using profits from frozen Russian assets. This is excellent news. And in the summer, the leaders of G7 countries agreed to cream off the profits from around 280 billion of Russian sovereign assets which have been frozen. This is the sort of thing we need to be doing. And of course, Russia has to pay for the 470,000 damage cases registered in Ukraine. Trillions of dollars worth of damage caused by them. My lords, everything hinges on what's going to happen in a few days' time in America. Are we prepared for what happens on the 5th of November and who wins that election? Because the US Republican support for the Ukraine seems to have waned. Will it continue if we have a Trump presidency? The growing relationship between Russia, Iran, and North Korea. China, which is continuing to exploit Russia's weakened position is using it for its own strategic interests as well. And of course, we mustn't forget the 475 million of humanitarian aid that we have given to Ukraine. My Lords, the UN has been useless recently, totally ineffective except for helping to get the grain to flow out of Odessa. And nobody, Baroness Smith, mentioned India. India is going to be the largest economy in the world by 2060. Are we working with India to try and resolve these conflicts? India, a country which is an ally of ours. Are we working with them? Are we talking to India? And I conclude with this, my Lords. I'm a stuck record. 2019, 70th anniversary of NATO, I said we should be spending 3% of GDP on defence. We need to do that more than ever now. And as the Noble Lord Stirrup said in a previous debate in his excellent speech today, we have a shrinking and hollowing out of our armed forces. And the Noble Lord West said, money is the elephant in the room. And I keep saying this, my Lords, the price of freedom is not free. We must help and save Ukraine win this war.